NFL Total Access. My name is MJ Acosta-Ruiz. The dust is settling after a weekend full of dreams coming true. Willie Mcinnes, Joe Thomas, and Dan Hanzus join me tonight as we look at the bigger picture following the 2021 NFL Draft. And as new careers are just getting started, we begin with the veteran QB who seems to be looking at a new chapter. What do you do when you're in a grudge match with your team? Well, if you're Aaron Rodgers, you head to the Kentucky Derby. The MVP quarterback's unhappiness with the Packers, his contract, and his future has rumors swirling that he wants out. Green Bay's brass, however, has spent the weekend repeatedly trying to knock down reports of a potential Rodgers trade.
I know the reports out there. I mean, this guy is our quarterback, man, and he's our leader of our team, and I want nothing more than to see him back in a Packer uniform. And, you know, we've been able to accomplish a lot of great feats over the last 2 years, 2 straight NFC championship games. I know the seasons haven't ended the way we've wanted them to, but in my eyes, he's the greatest to ever do it. I don't care about Super Bowls or whatnot, but we want him back here.
Some things can become complicated, and we're working through it the best we can. We've been working through it for a while, and again, we're very optimistic that we can get through this for what's best for the Green Bay Packers, which is Aaron suiting up for us this fall.
Okay, Willie Mcinnes, Joe Thomas, Tom Pelissero joining us now. All right, Packers GM Brian Gutekunst, very clear there. We want Aaron Rodgers to be our quarterback. The want being the operative word there. Tom, what's going on here?
Well, MJ, it was notable in that same press conference that Packers coach Matt LaFleur talked about how much the players in the locker room and the coaches love Aaron Rodgers. He did not mention the front office. The Packers changed the structure of their organization 3 years ago. For decades, it had been the head coach reporting to the GM. Now, LaFleur, Brian Gutekunst, and another executive, Russ Ball, all report directly to President and CEO Mark Murphy. In other words, Gutekunst is not LaFleur's boss, yet there are times where it's LaFleur who's having to answer to Aaron Rodgers and others about various roster moves, whether it is trading up to draft Jordan Love in the first round, cutting wide receiver and Rodgers' favorite Jake Kumerow, or most recently on Thursday night using a first-round draft pick on a cornerback, Eric Stokes. Now let's be clear, the Packers have been clear, consistent, publicly and privately. They are not trading Aaron Rodgers. The question now, Willie, is can these sides find a way to move forward amicably, or do both sides ultimately push the buttons that they have? Rodgers threatening a holdout and the Packers holding fines and potentially close to $30 million in bonus repayment over his head.
Well, I think that's the question. You said sides, and it seems like it's not one group working together. Seems like it's a little dysfunction there. If you got 3 sides, you have the coaches, you have Aaron Rodgers and his side, and then you have the personnel department. And when all sides are not working together and decision-making and things are happening without the input of the coaches who are coaching this team, trying to develop and getting them ready to play, then that's a problem for me. And I know the structure changed and all those different things, but if you have one of the best players in the league coming off an MVP season and he has expressed certain things to you, and you know without this player, your team is totally different, your outlook on things would probably want to change because you want everybody on the same accord. They've been to 2 NFC championships. That's saying they're close to the goal of going to a Super Bowl and possibly winning one. Now, I just don't understand. I know that you have to do what's best for the team, but your most important player, the quarterback, should have some type of say on certain things, especially making sure he has his contract in place. There's no guaranteed money left on his contract, so there's no security for him. He doesn't have any say-so in personnel or anything else. And if you go down the line, this is a problem because now you have a guy who makes this team go. You take him off, they're not the same, disgruntled, not wanting to be on the team and not on the same page, Joe.
Yeah, I think it's important for everybody in that organization to just come to the realization that we all can see clearly Aaron Rodgers is the most important person in that franchise. Front office, coaches, players included, by a long shot. And they need to recognize that you need to keep your most important employee happy.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean you have to give them full control over the organization, over the roster, over players, over the draft. But what you need to do is keep him informed. Make sure that he feels like he's part of the process and that he can have input and that you're going to listen to his input. And thus far, they haven't done that. They've even gone beyond not doing that in last year when they drafted his replacement. And I think that's the root cause of all of this. Last year, they drafted Jordan Love, and that's different than just drafting a cornerback this year. That's saying that we're not trying to win when you are here. We're focused on what is next when you're gone. And that's the ultimate slap in the face to who Matt LaFleur just said was the greatest player of all time. Now, you can argue it's Brady or somebody else, but you can't argue that Aaron Rodgers is the most important person in that organization by a long shot.
And how about show him a little respect? If you're going to draft a quarterback or somebody you expect to be his heir apparent, give him a call before and after. Hey, what do you think about this guy? We're not trying to replace you. We're just trying to put a guy in place because we saw what it looked like when you got injured and you wasn't on a football field. We know what this looks like. So have a little respect, have a conversation, have some back and forth. Not saying you're giving him full control or whatever, but just the respect to get his insight and his advice on certain things. And then you're still going to make your own decision anyway, because that's what you've been doing since you restructured everything.
You know, and sometimes words obviously speak volumes, but sometimes what you don't say says a lot too. Rodgers has yet to officially or directly really speak on this. The longer I think he stays quiet, the longer all of this continues to ramp up. But in the meantime, we have an ominous tweet here from Packers wide receiver Davante Adams saying, quote, "You got to appreciate what you got while you got it."
Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go.
With the 26th pick, we have Gregory Newsome II.
The Cleveland Browns select Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. The Browns down, baby.
I will see you at 2022 when the Cleveland Browns win the Super Bowl. And I'm out.
The epic mic drop there. All right, Joe Thomas in Cleveland naturally for the NFL draft, tweeting out this recap photo from the stage. Quote, "How about them Brownies last night? Cleveland put an awesome show for the world and walked away with one of the best defensive players in this year's draft in Greg Newsome. What a night for #the land." And he's right here, Joe, now that buzz, that rush from the stage has come down maybe just a little bit. Do you think the Browns really did enough here to address the biggest needs for this team?
There's no doubt they did. The Browns walked away from this draft feeling outstanding. And, you know, that's not unique in the draft. There's 32 NFL franchises that were raising their glasses of champagne Saturday night and patting themselves on the back for a job well done. But in Cleveland, they actually deserve it because their biggest need going into this draft was cornerback. Their second biggest need was a speedy linebacker that could play in base, but also could play when the offense goes to 11 personnel or sub personnel. A lot of times when you got a linebacker that can't run with some of the faster players in the league, you got to sub them out. Not Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who's the guy that they got in the second round, who a lot of people had as a first-round grade. So they were able to get a first-round cornerback in Greg Newsome to help shore up what they want to be on defense, which is a team that plays a lot of secondary players, that plays fast, that can play physical, and then they got a speedy linebacker that can play every single down for them. So they walked away after the first two rounds thinking that they got absolutely everything that they possibly could have wanted and more. And then in the third round, they were able to get Anthony Schwartz, who is the speedy receiver, and he was really the only person on offense that they were looking for in the third round because they just needed a speedy guy that could threaten the edges with the jet sweeps, with the reverses, and then take the top off the defense. And that's exactly who they got with Schwartz in the third round.
Joe, they had a very clear and concise to-do list and checked each one of those things off. All right, but take us back to the stage for a moment, because that just little snippet that we got from you there, we felt it here. For those of us who haven't experienced the draft in person, what was it like this year of all years when everybody was just dying to be back around other humans?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And that was my feeling, too. This was my first travel trip for work since the pandemic started. So just being around my coworker, Steve Smith, and Chris Rose and Mooch, it was just fun being out there, being around the fans, seeing that passion up close and impersonal. And Cleveland gave one of the best shows of all time at the NFL draft, in my opinion, because they were able to show the world the passion that they have for pro football, the passion they have for their Brownies. And I got to be honest, if you are not a Browns fan, you were probably a little bit tired of hearing the "Here we go Brownies" chant and hearing the barking from those passionate dog pound fans by the end of the weekend. But I think it was a great showing for Cleveland, and it was a great showing for the NFL that you can safely get people together as this pandemic is winding down.
Now that's the whole point of the host city, Joe. We love it when the fans get nice and hyped and let them know whose house they're in. All right, so as we look at the guys joining the team, there's somebody else itching to get back on the field. Look at Des Bryant tweeting out this video he says he received from OBJ. My brother OBJ sent this to me. What ACL? He's looking real scary. This will be his best year yet. I'm calling it. So, Joe, does a healthy Odell Beckham Jr. make the Browns the best team in the AFC?
As much as I love the Browns, I'm not sure that this makes them the best team in the AFC, because until they're able to beat the Chiefs on the field, I'm calling the Chiefs the best team in the AFC. They were the representative for the AFC in the Super Bowl. Their biggest flaw was their pass protection, was their offensive line. We saw it in the Super Bowl. They probably would have won the Super Bowl had they had better protection. And what did they do? They went out this offseason and they almost completely overhauled their offensive line. Now they got one of the better offensive lines in the NFL. So until the Chiefs get unseated, they're still the best team in the AFC.
I'm proud of you, Joe, keeping it real pragmatic there. The last fully healthy season for OBJ, that was in 2019. He had 74 receptions for over 1,000 receiving yards. All right, Joe, thank you. Time to get you some more news from around the league with our NFL insider, of course, Ian Rappaport. Ian, today was the deadline for the teams to pick up the fifth-year options on those 2018 first-round picks. How did this shake out across the league?
Well, there are a couple of notable players who did not get their options picked up. We'll start with Leighton Vander Esch, standout linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys, former first-round pick, as all of these guys are, but obviously battled injuries over the past couple years. And this really was a couple things. It was, of course, one about availability. Two, the Cowboys drafted Micah Parsons in the first round. Certainly seems like that's a linebacker they're going to commit around and build around and kind of see as a big part of their linebacker crew going forward. So Vander Esch got his option declined. However, the hope, like with all players who get it declined, is that he is someone who can use this, and he now enters a contract year, to get a big-time contract after the season, maybe a little earlier than previously possible. Another player who got their fifth-year option declined, Patriots running back Sony Michel. He also has battled some injuries on and off the field and essentially become a backup running back for the Patriots. He now also is in a contract year with plenty to prove in New England.
Ian, what does this mean for long-term deals for the guys in that 2018 draft class?
Yeah, well, there was a couple of big-name players, specifically quarterbacks, who got their fifth-year options picked up. Of course, today the latest was Josh Allen, the Bills franchise quarterback, and they've made no secret of it. The Bills haven't. They want to lock in Josh Allen on a huge long-term deal. They know he deserves it. I would expect one at least to be discussed and potentially struck this spring and into the summer. Similar to Lamar Jackson, he also had his fifth-year option picked up over the weekend with the Baltimore Ravens. The goal now for these teams, these two franchises, is to lock in their quarterbacks to long-term deal. These were perfunctory moves. Everyone knew the fifth-year options on both these guys were going to be picked up. It was really the first step toward negotiating a long-term deal. We'll see if they can do it before.
His first time at Gillette Stadium. Hey, he's matching the big bosses. Not a bad. Does that take you back, Willie? A little bit.
Way back.
Way. Okay. So the Patriots got their guy. How does one Mac Jones fit into this Patriot system?
Perfectly. And you talk about a guy coming from a pro-style system with Saban and Sarkisian being his offensive coordinator, changing up every single week depending on the defenses, which he's going to have to do with Josh McDaniels. The Patriots love a quarterback that's smart, a good decision maker, somebody that's accurate and that's mentally tough. And Mac Jones exemplifies all these different things. He checks the boxes in every single category. Now, when you go to the Patriots, you have to understand that it's week to week. You have to be able to digest a lot, and there may be changes. You have to make in-game changes and adjustments. He's done that. Under the pressure of a guy like Saban, he's going right to the next guy who's another NFL version, which is Bill Belichick.
All right, well, it's time. Sounds like it's time now that we take a little break to look at some draft grades.
Let's do it.
Yep, that's presented by Lexus here. So, Willie, here are your AFC East draft grades. The Jets and Dolphins each got A's. Patriots and Bills with a B. Let's start with the Jets, Willie. What made Robert Saleh, Joe Douglas ace students in this 2021 draft?
Well, you trade away Sam Darnold. You got to get a quarterback, a franchise guy. Wilson was that guy. So you get that. Then you get a receiver, Elijah Moore, one of the best talents, first-round talents in the draft. And then you get Elijah Vera Tucker, a lineman, to help out your young quarterback that can play guard or tackle. And then you go get him running back. So I would say all the draft picks were needs, high needs, and you got some quality players that can come in and play day one with that team. Really good players. And then if you talk about the Dolphins, again, okay, you got Tua coming in as a young quarterback. What do you get? Give him his favorite weapon, all right, Waddle. You go get Waddle, who's probably the best receiver all around in the draft, and he's also a returner. And then you go get Jalen Phillips, a defensive end who's a phenom. Don't have a lot of experience, but a lot of upside and can develop, and he'll be inserted in the lineup right away. And then you get two more players in a lineman and another guy that's basically two more first-round picks. So you get a safety out of Oregon that can do everything, and then you get a tackle that can do pretty much everything. All these guys have first-round grades, and 2 second-rounders are really first-rounder talent, and I just thought they hit it out of the park.
You know, the Bills sort of set the bar here, set the tone as we were coming into this draft, right? This division not playing around. It's been 20 years, Willie, since 3 AFC East teams had double-digit wins. It's looking like this could be the year to break that.
Trevor Lawrence, quarterback, Clemson. Zach Wilson, quarterback, BYU. Trey Lance.
Just found out 2 minutes ago.
He's an absolute freak show. This is a freak.
Jamar Chase, LSU.
I'm ready to go put on the show. Let's do it.
Panay Sewell.
Check your kneecaps.
Pat Surtain, Jr.
Quarterback, Ohio State.
The greatest franchise in NFL history.
How about them Cowboys?
Let's get it.
That was good.
All right, if you haven't done so already, get your Twitter fingers ready because Dan Hanses has released his power rankings following the 2021 NFL Draft. Here is the top 10. The Buccaneers, they're at 1, followed by the Chiefs and Bills to round out the top 3. Towards the bottom half, the Seahawks, 49ers, and Saints round out at 8, 9, and 10, respectively. All right, the purveyor of the power rankings is here with us today. Dan, the very first line of your article on NFL.com says that here's the truth. The NFL Draft and the power rankings do not mix. So let's start there with the Saints, who moved down 4 spots, Dan.
Yeah, and MJ, it's hope season, so you don't need me as the Grinch to tell you that your team's dropping in the power rankings, but I have to drop the Saints because I kept thinking all offseason that Sean Payton was going to pull a rabbit out of his hat, and there would be a big-time replacement for Drew Brees and quarterback, and maybe there still will be. But the way things are now after free agency, after the draft, this does look like it's going to be Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill. And Sean Payton's a very smart man. Maybe he's figured this out, and this is going to be dynamic quarterback play, and they're a Super Bowl team. I just think there's a ceiling here with these quarterbacks, and I think it will keep them from being a true Super Bowl threat.
All right, the Saints have won 10 games in each of the last 4 seasons, second longest streak behind the Chiefs, who we will get to in a second. But first, the Packers. A lot of drama going into that first day of the draft. They dropped a spot in your rankings, Dan.
Yeah, and I wouldn't put too much into that. They're a top 4 team on the power rankings, which means they're a Super Bowl level team. But I mean, we have to entertain a reality. What if Aaron Rodgers wasn't there? And this is totally hypothetical, but if I were to write up the power rankings a day after an Aaron Rodgers trade, I'm not going to keep him in the top 5. They would drop 10, 15 spots. And I think that's what it comes down to here when we talk about what does Aaron Rodgers have here? Does he have leverage? What is this all about? It's like some Old Testament stuff here, MJ, where he's saying, not only am I going to smite you for taking Jordan Love by winning the MVP, I'm going to then make you get rid of me and send you down into the soft underbelly of the NFL for a decade or more. He's trying to, stick it to his team. I kind of like it. I kind of like this type of fire and brimstone stuff.
Yeah, it's not just for right now. He wants it to last for a long time.
Forever.
All right, yeah, forever. All right, lastly, the Chiefs. They stayed put at number 2. Why was that?
Yeah, the Chiefs, I love what they did. And smart teams do smart things. And they lost the Super Bowl because they couldn't protect their $500 million quarterback. So what do? A complete upgrade of the offensive line, which, by the way, they could have just said after the season, we weren't healthy by the Super Bowl, so let's just get healthy. No. They wanted to do better than that. So they went and they got Orlando Brown. They spent all that money on Joe Thuney. They got Kyle Long out of retirement. Even Creed Humphrey. They have a center of the future, I think, came out of this draft. A complete makeover, and it turns it back into a strength for the team. And who's going to beat the Chiefs? That's the cream of the AFC.
I mean, listen, the Chiefs trying to make it to the Super Bowl in their third consecutive season here. Dan Hanses, all 20 was an MVP season for Aaron Rodgers. Just look at the numbers here, 13-3. He was averaging 268.7 pass yards per game, passer rating 121.5. Those are the numbers, but he also got praise from the head coach of his favorite childhood team. Kyle Shanahan joined Rich Eisen and spoke about his inquiry into Rodgers.
The exact truth is I don't want to wake up the next day on Friday and see Aaron Rodgers, one of the best quarterbacks in this league, traded without doing any due diligence on it. So I just called Matt and asked him if there was anything to it. And Matt told me I'd be wasting my time if we had Lynch call. And so Lynch did not call anyone the next day. But, yes, I did reach out to Matt the night before and asked him if it was, hey, man, I don't want to wake up the next day and see that Aaron was traded for something. I didn't at least look into it. And so that's what I did with Matt, and he gave me a very quick answer. So I didn't even tell John to call Goody. So I think that was worked out, I guess. We were happy to get our guy, and hopefully it'll work out for them.
All right, diving a little deeper into our top headline of the day.
To say the least.
Oh, with Willie and Joe here. All right, the rumors around Aaron Rodgers and his displeasure, to say the least, with the Packers, they continue to ramp up, guys. As we look back on the draft, did Green Bay do enough to make Rodgers maybe want to stay? Joe?
Well, the Packers, they had a good draft. They added a receiver, Amari Rodgers, at number 85, who's a really good slot receiver, who I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be happy to throw to. They got a good corner in Eric Stokes from Georgia in the first round. So their team got better. But I think the root cause of all this unhappiness with Aaron Rodgers is he thought they were in a partnership, that they were going all in to win while he was there, while he had the Super Bowl window for the next 4 or 5 years. You can argue maybe Aaron Rodgers was a little bit on the decline when they drafted Jordan Love. But the bottom line is they drafted a quarterback in the first round when they could have used that pick on a different position to make the team better. So until they make that right, by, in my opinion, trading Jordan Love, until they make that piece right, there's always going to be some lingering unhappiness with Aaron Rodgers, and it's going to continue to bubble to the surface until they take care and deal with that.
And, Joe, the answer is no, they didn't. They addressed what the team needed in the draft. They also got 3 linemen that they lost. They got a center, they lost Lindsley, they got a tackle, and they got a guard. And they needed that to protect Aaron Rodgers or whoever's going to be at the quarterback position. But the key word I think you said was partnership. And when we saw Dak get his huge contract, they talked about him being a partner and having equity in the team. When Tom Brady went to the Tampa Bay Bucks, we saw that he had the power, he had the influence, he had something to say about the players and free agents that was going to come in, and they were able to listen and negotiate and talk and work things out. And it worked out. They won a Super Bowl. So Aaron Rodgers has earned the right to have equity and to be a partner in that organization, not just because he was the MVP, it's because he's one of the best in the league. And without him on that roster, without him in that lineup, that team is totally different. So whether it was a phone call before you drafted Jordan Love or after you drafted Jordan Love, I think it's just courtesy. I think it's respect. And I think if a player cares that much about his team and he's given you this many years and has played at a high level, you should afford him to have that responsibility, not only to his team, but to him and to the organization, to say you are important enough that we will listen to whatever you have to say. So now you have 3 different sides going 3 different ways. The coaches want Aaron Rodgers. Aaron doesn't feel like he has the respect from the organization, the personnel side, and they're probably feeling like it's a team. It's not about one player, so we're going to do what's best for the team, which I can understand. But when your team is driven by the engine, who is Aaron Rodgers, you got to be mindful of that.
Willie, you hit it right there when you said the R word, respect. I think it comes down to that and to appreciation. At the end of the day, he just wants to feel appreciated. All right, Joe and Willie, thank you. For you at home, let's catch you up on the latest headlines from around the NFL. Amazon Prime Video will be the new home of Thursday Night Football starting in the 2022 season. So this is a year earlier than it was initially planned. It's an exclusive deal for Amazon to distribute Primetime's second most watched show, Thursday Night Football, across hundreds of compatible digital devices. Right, the deadline for NFL teams to exercise fifth-year options for their 2018 first-round picks was today, and while Josh Allen, Calvin Ridley, and Tremaine Edmonds had theirs picked up, as expected, a couple surprises as Leighton Vander Esch and Sony Michel had their options declined. All right, coming up next on NFL Total Access, 3 NFL teams that made quarterback draft news by not drafting a quarterback, and one NFL team making everyone on their schedule very, very nervous with a defense that's going to be very, very hard to beat.
This week on Total Access, the locker room.
We get a call and someone tells us, Ozzy's moving up. They're going to hop you. What are you going to do? I get a call from a very well-known and massively intelligent agent that I have a ton of respect for. I won't bother mentioning his name right now. And he said to me, and Smitty was on the speakerphone, don't effing move. And they're rumored to come up. They're not going to do it. It was amazing that it happened to us during a time where, what if we did? We would have given up something. What if we didn't? What if we held back and someone did, trade away and all of a sudden Matt wasn't with us again? I don't think Smitty and I would have.
Dan Hansis is back as we go through the aftermath of the 2021 NFL Draft. Dan, you're gifting us with another gem today. The QBs are going from purgatory to peace after the draft. And we're going to start with Sam Darnold.
Yes, how about uncertainty to tranquility? I like that as well. I'm just workshopping it here. Yes, Sam Darnold, everybody knows it's been a tough run for him in the NFL. And when he was kind of twisting in the wind with the Jets a little bit. He gets to Carolina, and you think, okay, he gets a fresh start. Well, unless they take a quarterback. But they don't. The Panthers don't take any quarterbacks, actually, in their 11 picks. And what he now gets is a true fresh start, Sam Darnold. And you really think it's something he can make the most of. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater is traded. They pick up his fifth-year option, Darnold. He's ready to roll now. And they even used 2 of their first 3-round picks on a tackle and a wide receiver. So Darnold's in good shape right here. Good luck to him.
Yeah, Sam Darnold still hasn't played a full season. Like you mentioned, Dan, the Panthers went ahead and grabbed that 5th-year option for him. All right, next QB, according to you, should be in a little peaceful state now, Matt Ryan.
Yeah, and Ryan's like a borderline Hall of Famer, but he's in his mid-30s now, and with the Falcons looking toward potentially a reboot of the organization, there was a lot of speculation. Could he end up on the trade block? Could they draft someone high up in the first round to be his replacement? Could they tear down the team and he's stuck with a total rebuild? Instead, they go and get Kyle Pitts, who's we believe, many people believe, is a generational type talent at tight end. You have Arthur Smith in the building as the head coach, who's a offensive guru with pelts on the wall from his time in Tennessee. So he's got a great coach. He's got this huge new target in Pitts. Oh, and Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones. So Matt Ryan feeling pretty good right now, and he's got a clear runway.
Yeah, Matt Ryan, top 10 all-time in passing yards, pass touchdowns, and completion. Greg Rosenthal says, please give us at least one season with Julio and Kyle Pitts out there. I agree with that. All right, finally, my favorite journeyman, Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Everybody's favorite journeyman. And, Ryan Fitzpatrick has been around so long now that it feels like it's about 100 years ago he was on the Jets, and that was the 2015 and 2016 season. 2016 is the last year he entered a season as the team's #1 quarterbacks, and that's where we're going right now with Washington, it looks like, because another team that was speculated as interested in a quarterback in the draft, that doesn't happen. So you think that he's going to have a chance now to be this team's quarterback with a great defense that just added Jamin Davis in addition to all those other pieces. It's very exciting time for the Fitz Magic fans out there, and I feel like we all are kind of, right?
Yeah, timeline here. Fitz Magic was drafted in the 7th round of the 2005 draft by the then St. Louis Rams. He's joining now his 9th team with Washington.
The St. Louis Rams.
I know, throwback. Thanks, Dan. And speaking of Washington, well, the football team is looking at a veteran QB now. Let's take a look at their defensive starters here for 2021, which include defensive ends Chase Young and Montez Sweat, John Bostic at linebacker, cornerback Kendall Fuller, and safety Landon Collins. Hey, Willie, I'll send it over to you and the guys for players only.
Thanks, MJ. All right, Joe, Washington's defense was pretty good and pretty loaded last year. And when you talk about what they've done last year, how explosive they were, now they add Jamin Davis, one of the best phenoms in the draft this year. Most say that they have the best or one of the best defenses in the league this upcoming season. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I'm not going to say they have the best defense in the NFL because I still think that belongs to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're bringing everybody back from the team that won the Super Bowl last year. Shaq Barrett got re-signed this offseason. He's an outstanding pass rusher. I think he's one of the keys to that defense, him coming back. But I got the Washington football team at number 2 with the addition of Jamin Davis, who was the best inside linebacker in the draft. They've got probably the best front seven in the NFL. But one area that you need to look at is their offense is not great. And I've been part of a lot of bad offenses that had pretty good defenses, and we've left those defenses out a long time with a lot of 3 and outs. And by the end of the game, they get a little bit worn out. So it's really hard to maintain that pace when you don't have a great offense on the other side of the field.
Don't I know that all too well, Joe? I happen to be on some of those offenses you were on, and we were out there about 85, 90 plays, so I do understand. Now, the Bucs have got to be the best defense. When you look at what they did to the Kansas City Chiefs, by far the best offense, the most explosive weapons in the Super Bowl, not giving up a touchdown. They smothered the Kansas City Chiefs, and they were good on all fronts. The front seven was good. They got after their quarterback. They couldn't block him. The linebackers, they tackled and hit everything they saw. They made plays in coverage, and the defensive backs didn't give up any big plays. So the Bucs has to be number 1 as the Super Bowl champs. And then don't forget about the Rams. The Rams ended the season on a run, and that was mostly because of the defense and what they did and how they played, led by Aaron Donald and company. So when you talk about having one of the greatest defenses, you got to be consistent. And I think your point that you made about the offense kind of hindering them a little bit, when you're on the field and you have 3 and outs and you're on the field so much, it's hard to be consistent no matter how good your defense is. So I know they added all those pieces, and I know what they're trying to do down there. They're trying to be a good defense and run the ball and build around that. But you also got to be able to score points. That will help your defense. MJ?
All right, Willie, thank you.